Please give me a big State of Entrepreneurship welcome to Mayor Mattie Parker.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? It's good to be with you. As EJ alluded, my name is Mattie Parker, and I'm the mayor of Fort Worth. Who are my folks from Dallas in the house tonight? So my goal is to make you really wish you lived in Fort Worth before you jump back on 121 or I-30 to head back to Dallas to the east. All kidding aside, there's a lot of great things happening across North Texas, and truly we're better together as a region. It's something we really try to work on together. So a few things I want to talk to you about, but first I thought I would just kind of go off script and say why this event, why the work of Global Entrepreneurship Week, and more specifically entrepreneurism, is important to me. Because I think it's really at the crux of how Fort Worth continues to thrive and really what will set us apart as a city moving forward. Many of you may have gotten to know me a bit, maybe when I was Chief of Staff for Mayor Price and Council, or even on the campaign trail, and I spent a lot of time talking about entrepreneurship. And it wasn't because it was a novel idea I had come up with. The data simply speaks for itself. And I think some of those numbers are in front of you in a very simple report that Sparkyard put out today. You've got so many leaders here in this room. Many of you are business leaders. You're running institutions understanding this. But as we move Fort Worth forward, and I have coined the term go time for a reason, entrepreneurship really sits at the center of that because it's truly the great equalizer. The ability for everyone in Fort Worth, no matter their background, their race, and their previous income or education level, to attain great things because of one idea. And it really is the responsibility of your mayor and your city council and the city to get that right, to make sure all businesses feel supported and that we become a thriving place for entrepreneurs. Because what I want in 2 to 3 years for people to look back and say, what the hell are they doing in Fort Worth? I want to be a part of it. And previously, we've kind of been behind the 8 ball, and it's really what all of you in this room have been screaming and yelling about probably for decades. Let's focus on entrepreneurship and what we can do really as a community. So this is the 4th annual State of Entrepreneurship Week. During this Global Entrepreneurship Week, I love that you're the biggest in the world, right? We like things bigger and better in Texas and in Fort Worth specifically. And it does get bigger and better every year. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Megan Wright with Texas Wesleyan and Marco Johnson with Sparkyard just a few weeks ago on our podcast to talk about what this week means and what entrepreneurship was as well, and really appreciate the education that both of you gave to me during that time. You even entertained a very rambunctious 10-year-old who got to do the introduction to the podcast, my son Grayson, who, by the way, has been saying for years he wants to be an entrepreneur when he grows up. So y'all are rubbing off on him big time. We have over 500,000 new businesses that start in the U.S. each year. Hard to believe that. And welcome to all of you to be a part of this ecosystem in the United States. We understand here that we need to recognize, is Victor here, Wang here, former VP of Entrepreneurship with the Kauffman Foundation? He's not here, in Kansas. Really big things happening. We're doing our own things with Right to Start, thanks to Cameron Cushman. We joke with Cameron a lot. Everything that happened and he started in KC, he's bringing to Fort Worth. They claimed in Kansas City, I got to go on that trip, that they were the best place for entrepreneurs, and I think we're trying to do that here in Fort Worth as well. We also understand that local companies have big exits. We've had incredible successes over the course of the last few years, and we understand what those biotech, specifically biotech companies, are doing in Fort Worth. According to a new jobs report, there will be, at least, I guess this week, companies in Tarrant County created over 30,000 jobs in 2019, which is what Sparkyard is talking about. Health Science Center, TCU, and Sparkyard together won a $550,000 grant to implement 10 new aspects to this platform to help entrepreneurs really find the next great thing. And we're looking across Sparkyard specifically to bring those resources to more people in our population, including a version that is in Spanish and Vietnamese, and really helps to create this more comprehensive approach for growth circuit for our companies in Fort Worth. Those are really important resources that are only available here and for free thanks to this partnership. We also know across Fort Worth there's a lot of things that are getting big notice, and I'll talk about a few of those. The first has been maybe the worst kept, best kept secret. I won't spoil it because I'm trying to be under that embargo, but Ian is representative of a wonderful company, Techstars, focused on accelerators. And a little birdie's out in the paper. I think Dr. Williams may have let that cat out of the bag with his recent announcement as the appointment of UNT Chancellor. But there are huge things happening in Fort Worth because of that. We've oftentimes been behind the 8 ball when it comes to accelerators and really creating an environment where all businesses felt the ability to really succeed in Fort Worth. And I know this is a great start for us, and a bigger announcement will come up in the next few weeks. We also know that the Mobility Innovation Zone at Alliance is truly cutting edge. You can't go anywhere with Russell Laughlin or Mike Berry without them telling you all about it. For Fort Worth to be at the center of technology innovation, specifically in transportation and mobility, is a game changer. And I think in many ways it will be another reason why Fort Worth is on the map into the future. And there are companies across this world that are paying attention specifically to what Alliance has done in this space. And I really give them special kudos because they're not doing it just focused on technology. They have really wrapped around all the other services and the businesses that made Alliance successful and creating that new narrative of what the future of transportation looks like, specifically here in North Texas. We also understand that our universities continue to contribute in huge ways. You'll hear me talk a lot about the Health Science Center because of their innovations. Is Dr. Vishwanthana, if I've got that name pronounced correctly, I apologize, a $50 million grant focused on health disparities in research, and she's also agreed to serve on our Human Relations Commission. And I think those appointments are really important because we have someone that is the premier and top in her field to help us apply that same research and ability in the city of Fort Worth. So special thanks to the Health Science Center as well. We also are on the cusp. I know our dean of our law school is here. Tomorrow is a huge day for Fort Worth and Texas A&M, and I say that proudly as a Longhorn. I will wear my maroon tomorrow for a very special announcement here in downtown Fort Worth. That is, as John Goff has taught me well to say, we're changing the architecture of Fort Worth in really special ways. It's funny how things come full circle. I was a night student working full-time and going to law school part-time at Texas A&M School of Law for 3.5 years. So tomorrow will be a special day as we announce what really is the embark on this new venture with Texas A&M. But there's more to it than just law school. I hope that all of you get to pay attention to that exciting announcement tomorrow. We also know that TCU continues to be at the center of this, the Neely Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. Their focus, that TCU became the first university to receive this award, a specific award from the Global Consortium out of beating 89 other universities. I was with their dean of the business school recently and understand what TCU wants to be at the center of that as well. When COVID started, I was still at City Hall, and you can imagine it's unprecedented. And I'm sure all of us sat behind a computer on social media and maybe waxed poetic about what we thought was going wrong at a national or a state or a local level. But I can assure you that here in Tarrant County and Fort Worth, they tried to make the most of what was a really unprecedented, very difficult time. And we may not have all understood the decisions that they were making, but I can tell you that small businesses and entrepreneurs were really at the decisions, at the center of that. Over $55 million of CARES Act dollars went directly back into the community, specifically to small businesses. And the council and I have looked at some of the metrics across the state of Texas specifically to see how they spent CARES Act dollars. I think we spent more than double specifically putting those monies back into the city of Fort Worth. I know Leonard Firestone is here. He served on the Fort Worth Now committee at the time. A huge group of people, and they're on that effort. But I think it really speaks to where we understand how you keep community together here in Fort Worth. 32% of those grants went to minority-owned businesses. 31% of the grants were awarded to companies located in the city's targeted revitalization areas and reinvestment zones. And keeping those businesses alive or afloat during the pandemic is critically important as we move forward to try to revitalize those communities into the future and make additional public investments. And over $1 million went to local performing arts nonprofits alone. We understand that the city of Fort Worth has to continue to make those investments and do so in a really smart and targeted way. So at the beginning of my tenure on council, both Michael Crane and Leonard Firestone and I, we all talked about what is the future of innovation and entrepreneurship in Fort Worth, and what place should your Fort Worth City Council have in that? Well, I think it starts with us having the right conversations. So we've created a new committee focused on entrepreneurship and innovation that Leonard will chair and Michael will vice chair, which is very exciting for us. Many of you will be invited to be a seat at that table to help push city policies to make your work more possible and making sure we're reaching across the city of Fort Worth. I'm really excited about that and really thank Leonard and Michael for stepping up into uncharted waters. Like, sure, Mayor, that sounds great. What are we going to do? And I said, I don't know. It's your problem now, right? You got to figure it out. But in all honesty, this will not be done in a vacuum. This will not just be done by elected officials. It's really asking each of you who understand this space better than anybody to help us push the city forward. We know that the city of Fort Worth has much work to do in that space. As I think about in closing the city of Fort Worth, there's so many things we can do to disrupt the system. We're having conversations around cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and where the city of Fort Worth could play as a potential partnership for mining, right? I got lots of texts on the day that New York mayor has announced that he was going to take his paycheck in Bitcoin. Well, my paycheck's a little different than the New York mayor, so I'm not real sure it's worth them trying to carve up $29,000 a year in Bitcoin, but they can try as best they can. All jokes aside, I just want to say thank you for inviting me into this space, right? As a mayor, it's not often that you get the opportunity to rub elbows with people like you that are really making it happen every day. I promise you, I'm talking about entrepreneurship and the future of Fort Worth every single day. Well, whoever will listen, even in audiences where they don't quite get it yet, because I understand firsthand this will set Fort Worth apart for future generations. And what I know is I won't do this job forever. And when I pass the torch to the next mayor of Fort Worth, I want to be able to look at them and say, we have created an entrepreneurial ecosystem that rivals any other city in the world. And we've created a place where people of all walks of life, all gender, all race, all economic backgrounds can be successful in a city that loves them because we created the right systems around entrepreneurship. So thank you all for having me today. It's wonderful to be with you, and I'll turn it back over to EJ. Thanks, EJ.